because Indiana is like, what are they? Like, they're Iowa with candy cane pants. Like, they don't win anything.
That's true.
KSR Radio, Kentucky Sports Radio, ripping the Hoosiers apart. Are they just crying? We're going to talk in this episode. Blue blood, what does it mean? I've been thinking about this ever since I listened to this guy who, what you just heard, Iowa and candy stripe pants. I'm going to tell you, that really pisses me off listening to this type of stuff. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get into it.
Pretty simple. I win.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this community. So today, we got a different type of episode. I mean, it's kind of in the off season. Indiana's got more guys coming in, and I'm going to be talking about that soon, but I knew I had to make a video about this because this Kentucky Sports Radio is saying shit that I don't know if it's hilarious. I don't know if I should laugh. I don't know if I should drive down there and punch this guy in the head. I'm going to invite him on this show. I know who this dude is. Hillbilly Monkey, what's this guy's name? Steven Peake. That is the dude's name. He just brought it on himself. I mean, he's just ripping Indiana to shreds on here. We're going to talk about all this stuff like, what is a blue blood? What does a blue blood do? Who decides what a blue blood is? Where did this term come from? It's been there since 1927. We're going to talk about all that and more on the episode today. So thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. This is Indiana Sports Connection across the country and across the globe, spreading to Hoosier fans. And you're really going to want to hit that thumbs up button, because if you don't think we're a candy stripe Iowa fans over here or whatever you had to say, hit that thumbs up button. Let's pump this out to all the people in the Hoosier Nation. I don't know whether to take this seriously or take this not seriously. So, and leave your comments down below. I want to know from you out there more than anything, like, what do you think blue blood really means? Is it just more or less, like, I have always thought since I was a kid, like, it's just more or less like a historical term. Like, I never really think like UCLA, they're a great powerhouse basketball team. I don't really see what's the point of saying like, oh, UCLA, they're not a blue blood anymore. But everyone's always going to remember what they did way back when. And everyone's going to always remember that success. And they're just going to remember what a powerhouse they were in basketball during that time. And that is an important period. I mean, history is history. And you can't just change history just because, like, we've had a bad 25 years. I'm not sitting here arguing saying that Indiana's like some great program or anything, but we're going to get into all of it and more on this episode. You hit that subscribe button. The video is brought to you by BetUS. Use my promo code Indiana125 to save 125% on your first 3 deposits. 10% of the AdSense revenue on this channel goes to T2T.org. Without further ado, let's get into talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. All right, hello, Monkey. What do you think about these Kentucky people down there? I know why they're making these videos. I know where they're doing all this shit, because they lost. They lost the first thing. They've probably lost to Indiana in years, and then we're going to play them this year, and then they're really going to feel the pain of what it's like to lose to a non-blue blood team, if that's what you want to call us, because that's going to hurt even more, isn't it? This guy... And look, I give some really ridiculous rants on this channel too, so I get it. It's content. It's meant to be entertaining. But we're going to play the clip of what this dude, Steven Peake, that's who this dude is. Here's one of his tweets right here. Kentucky isn't for everyone. I understand that. But I'll never understand choosing with your own free will to play at Indiana.
Wow.
Battle lines have been drawn. Bayonets have been sharpened. And it's time to grab your weapon, Kentucky fans, because we're just going to talk about it in this episode. But first, I'm going to play the clip of what Steven Peake had to say on there. Play the first part of it. Hillbilly Monkey, let's play it, and then we'll talk about what this fool said down there. Roll it!
To be a fan of.
Oh.
Hey-o! The Indiana Hoosiers.
Oh,
and I would,
yeah. Cook.
You want me to go into that?
Just
go into
cook.
it. Okay. All right. Here's my thing about Indiana. you shouldn't be in the conversation for a blue blood. UCLA also. This thing can change. You can be a blue blood. They once were. They're not anymore. They're not. I was born in 1990. You know how many 1 seeds Indiana has gotten since then?
How many?
2.
Oh,
2.
That's it?
2. 93 and 2013. They didn't make the Final Four, I don't think, in either of those.
Nope, they did not.
They have 1 Final Four in 38 years.
Yeah.
1.
And that took a hell of a run, too.
Yeah,
get in there.
Tommy Coverdale.
With a half-court shot.
It took Tommy Coverdale. Since then, since their last banner, but we've had 11 Fast and Furious movies. We've gone through Nelly, Soulja Boy, and the rise and fall of Drake, and not one new banner for Indiana basketball. Here's what it is. It's that there are people who are in this business who are Gen X boomers who remember watching Indiana be good, right? Mm-hmm. Do you all remember Indiana being good? I don't. I don't remember. I do remember them playing Maryland in 2002. But some teams go on runs. San Diego State is also. Are they a blue blood? They played in just as many championship games since 1987. They're not. They're absolutely not. And there were Indiana fans yesterday on social media talking about how Kentucky is a has-been program.
Oh, heavens.
Oh, man. Well, if anybody knows what a has-been program looks like, it's the Hoosiers. If you have to blow the dust off your beta tape to watch your most recent championship, then you're not a blue blood. It was your last finals appearance was 23 years ago.
All right. I mean, this dude's born in 1990. He's 8 years younger than me. I mean, I was born in 1982. But beyond that, like, you have to define the terms of what it is. This is why this is like an argument from just a completely numbskulled approach, because, like, you're not defining the terms. Okay? Tell me, like, what it has to be. Because here's a definition of blue blood right here. Let's try to define these terms and then try to put them into some types of terms. Okay, here are the 3 consistently ranked among the best in the country. I mean, for years and years, Indiana was consistently ranked among the best in the country. They went to the final game in 2002, and they were ranked number 1 all through 2012 and 2013 season. And yeah, got beat out of the Sweet 16 in that year. Won 2 Big Ten championships in the 2010s, for what it's worth. But they're not looking at any of that. And I'm not saying Indiana's been successful over the last 25 years. Number 2, multiple national championships, 3 or more. So, I mean, Indiana's in on that. And national championships spread over decades of success. Okay, so here's one other way you could define a blue blood. And Hillbilly Monkey, roll that clip of what that dude had to say. Here's a little smidgen of a clip for you here of who has the most points in the AP poll, and then who has the most national titles. And then if you combine those 2 lists together, you come up with this. Hillbilly Monkey, roll it.
Several teams were appearing over and over again as the best in the country. Those teams were regularly called blue bloods, and the term kind of stuck to them since 1949, when the modern era of the AP poll began. The teams that have accumulated the most points all time in the poll are Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, Kansas, Indiana, Louisville, Arizona, Syracuse, and Cincinnati. But over time, people started including national championships in the conversation of blue bloods, and the dividing line seems to be more than 2 national titles. There's nothing official about this reasoning. Kansas and Villanova. Now, you may have heard some repeat names between those lists, and those teams are Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, Kansas, and Indiana. And those teams tend to be the teams that everyone basically agrees are blue bloods. So, like, straight up, There's little to no debate on these teams listed. And some of the top college basketball writers, like Matt Norlander, agree. But Matt Norlander has also said another team should be considered a blue blood without debate, and that's UConn.
I agree with that 100%. Those are the teams. But yeah, Matt Norlander agrees that like a lot of writers think that UConn should be a blue blood. I don't care about that. There are going to be other teams that are going to rise up. I think basically what this dude's getting way wrong is the history part of it. Dude, just because you were born in 1990, do you think your lifespan is just more important than anything that came before that? And I'm going to play the next clip of what he had to say because he goes on, and then he pisses me off more and more and more as this goes on. And it got to the point where I thought, you know what? I have to make a video about this. But KSR, you were invited on the show, my friend. I want you to come on. I just want to talk. I just want to talk about what the rivalry and why. I want to talk about some different terms of like determining what you think a blue blood is, and we can debate that on there, and I will gladly debate you, you know. But Hillbilly Monkey, play that next clip, and this one's about 3 minutes long. The rest of what Steven Peake had to say there on KSR radio down there in the Bluegrass State. And this is a great time to do this because Indiana plays Kentucky last year, and they lost a player to Indiana, and that's why they're crying around. We can't lose to Indiana. If they get a coach and somebody that knows basketball, then we'll be right back to where we were before. It's like, when did you win? You won it in 98. You won it in, 2016, right? And yeah, so there you go. One thing I do love about Kentucky fans, we have a lot in common, you know. But I would love to spark up some beef here with these Kentucky fans with the game coming up here next year. So Hillbilly Monkey, play that clip and then we'll talk about it.
McGriddle came out in 03. The Twin Towers were still standing at the start of that school year. That's how long it's been. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is wild to think about.
Jeez.
Houston's been a 1 seed as many times in the last 3 years as Indiana has in the last 25 years. That's wild.
Did Houston's coach ever coach at Indiana?
Ooh, funny you say that.
Yeah.
Kentucky has as many Big Ten tournament championships as Indiana has.
That's true.
Wait a minute.
You're
Peake?
not a blue blood in your own conference.
Wait, Steven Peake, Kentucky's not in the Big Ten. How does that make any sense?
I know. It's they have somewhere south of one conference tournament championship.
As many as Louisville does in their conference too.
No, and that's the thing. You say people can say I'm being a hater, but like I hate Louisville, and honestly, like they're closer to a blue blood than Indiana is, like a lot closer. They went from a Hall of Fame coach to a Hall of Fame coach, and then, a bunch of stuff happened. Indiana has had 7 coaches since Bobby Knight. 7. And was one of them Dan Dockich? Was he?
He was interim after Knight got fired, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, Dan Dockich got to call the shots at IU.
Yikes.
I think if we could pinpoint it, it was when Mike Davis did the head tap thing at Freedom Hall.
Against Kentucky.
Yeah.
Now that was a crash out.
Yeah.
That was a crash out.
Yeah.
Pull up the Duke game they had that year where they won. And Indiana, I think they fouled on a 3
They
up
did.
4, and Mike Davis just loses his mind. Because the guy make the shot? Was it like a chance to tie the game with a free throw?
That was the Sweet 16 game. Yeah, it was. Duke had a chance to tie, and who was it? Was it Boozer? Who missed the free throw, and they still got the rebound, or was it Jay Williams? They missed the free throw that I think would have tied it. They got the rebound, which would have won it, and they just missed a point-blank shot. It was that Sweet 16 game, IU Duke. The winner got to play Kent State and Antonio Gates to go to the Final Four at Rupp Arena. The Final Four wasn't at Rupp Arena, but these games were. I was there for that IU Duke game when that one happened. Yeah.
I was actually in Bloomington for it, ironic. The thing about Indiana is it's not like they haven't been able to replace Bobby Knight. I think what Bobby Knight did was kind of what Calipari was kind of doing. Like, he kind of coached them into irrelevancy. Like, In 1993, if he attacks a student, we probably don't hear about it.
But in 98, 99.
They needed to get rid of him. And then, so now, I think, and it's just, what did the guy say? Was it like, hey, Bobby, or something like that? He like choked him out for not saying Coach Knight. That's insane. That's your glory days. That's like the best time to be in Indiana. That's the best guy to ever coach your program.
He's choking out your guys.
Choking out students. Yeah, you can do that when you're going to Final Fours. If you're finishing 5th and 6th in your conference every year, you can't do that and physically assault students. So they haven't been able to replace him. And now you have a guy, Lamar Wilkerson, who wasn't born at that time, wasn't even alive yet, that I guess he can go there and be the guy, which is what he's like. That right there is, if you go to Kentucky, he could be just another guy. You can be just another guy on a really good team, but you want to go and be the man. You can do that at a place like Indiana, because Indiana is like, what are they? Like, they're Iowa with candy cane pants. Like, they don't win anything.
That's true.
If they weren't like, we just got told our whole lives, we've been gaslit into thinking Indiana is the successful basketball program. They haven't won anything since I've been alive. I know they went to 3 Sweet 16s. And I know that one of them, they had to beat Kentucky to be there. But that was Calipari's, you mentioned it earlier, TJ. That's Kentucky's, that up until St. Peter's, that was the worst tournament run under Calipari. And for Indiana, it's the greatest thing that has happened to that sorry excuse of a program in 10 years.
All right. I mean, there are a few things I do kind of agree with that. We'll start with that. I mean, I do think, like, did Bobby Knight kind of run Indiana into the ground in the mid to late 90s? A little bit. But, I mean, tell me, what are you going to do with a legendary coach? Yeah, like, now looking back, like, those teams, they didn't really want to succeed in the tournament. He was putting too much pressure on them. Kids had changed. People had turned into snowflakes, and those guys just wanted the season to be over with. Did he kind of run the team into the ground a little bit? I mean, in the mid to late 90s, a little bit that happened. We've had some bad coaches since then. You know, Mike Davis got the job. I had nothing against Mike Davis at all. He's very inexperienced in that type of realm, and he was just thrown into it. I feel bad for the guy, the way that fans attacked him and things like that. I never thought that was right. But we had bad coach, and then we hire Kelvin Sampson. He sets the program back. Tom Crean brings it back, and then I realized that, the past 10 years has been really bad. But we did win 2 Big Ten championships in the 2010s in a period there with Tom Crean, and had some pretty relevant years in there. But they're facts on, like, dude, these Kentucky fans, buy a book. I mean, I know a lot of you don't know how to read, and, a group of letters makes a word. All these bits in these letters, they make sounds, and then those words make up paragraphs and books and things like that. And that's what you call reading, okay? To all you Kentucky fans out there, it's called reading, because Bob Knight grabbed Neil Reed by the throat, but he grabbed the guy by the arm and said, don't call me Knight, or don't say, hey, Knight to me. And he had the 0 tolerance policy on. Also, Dan Dockich was not the interim coach after Mike Davis. So you're getting a lot of the facts wrong. Kelvin Sampson was let go. Dan Dockich stepped in, and he coached the rest of the season after Kelvin Sampson got caught cheating, and Indiana turned him in. Like, for Kentucky fans, they have been paying players since way back when. So they're really, really, like, on pins and needles now, because they're like, oh my God, now everybody can pay players. We've been doing it. Look, I'm going to tell you, read Bob Knight's book. He passionately hated Adolph Rupp. Everybody thinks that Adolph Rupp was some great whatever. Just a total scumbag cheater. Okay? There you go, Kentucky fans. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it,
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I do have to admit, his joke about not winning since the McGriddle was invented, pretty damn funny. I mean, I wish I would have come up with that. You know what I'm saying? Now, there was a guy who was on the local news one time, and he wrote a book about blue bloods, and he wrote a book about the 7 magnificent teams. And this guy, I guess I would consider a guy who put a lot of thought, and he wrote a book about it. So if you're gonna write a long book about something, you gotta think about it a lot, because it takes a lot to write a book, and you don't make any money writing a book, so it must be worth something. And here is what he had to say about blue blood status and all that type of thing. Hillbilly Monkey, let's roll that one.
Sort of skimmed over the Duke chapter. I wasn't all that interested in the Duke chapter, but I was fascinated by your criteria. And you had a quote in there from James Naismith, the inventor of basketball. He said, "The game had its origins in Massachusetts, but Indiana remains the center of the sport." Now, he said that a long, long time ago, but I was just so interested because Indiana is one of the blue bloods, but they haven't won since 1987. So it's kind of a different thing than what UConn's experiencing right now.
Yeah, I guess it's been a long, dry stretch for IU, but their achievements are tremendous. I mean, they have 5 titles, I believe. Yeah, 5 over several decades, and they'll be back. They are a blue blood, no question.
There you go. I mean, this is how I think of it. Like Michigan and Notre Dame, they had not won a national championship in football for a long, long time. I think like their history and everything. Now, some people will compare. They'll say like, well, in football, Army and Yale. If you go back, like the first big stadium was like at Yale, the first Bolden Stadium, and Army was great at football. Those teams were kind of like the originators. But to me, like no matter what, like Notre Dame and Michigan, they're always going to have those traditions and those things. And maybe you can throw Ohio State in there a little bit too. But I've always just viewed those 2 teams in football, like they have the history, they have the pedigree. It's the same in basketball. It's like, and beyond, here's what I hate about this, Steven, and I hate about every single person that says like Bobby Knight was our only great coach. Branch McCracken was a phenomenal coach. Branch McCracken revolutionized the college basketball game with the Hurricane Hoosiers and was a great coach. Indiana was great in basketball for decades. I mean, decades before, going back to when Everett Dean came back. He was the first All-American player at Indiana, and then he came back and he coached the Hoosiers, and then Branch McCracken was his player. So Indiana has a long pedigree of basketball. It didn't just start in 1976 like a lot of people like to think. And look, from doing this channel, I've researched a lot of this stuff and went and tried to make myself more aware of the entirety of the history of Indiana. I've read a lot of books about the team, the game, everything like that. And so I do view it as blue blood status. I don't see a point of saying, well, let's UCLA shouldn't be in, or if this team, has a 20-year stretch of being mediocre, then they should be kicked out or not be called a blue blood. To me, it's not really something you can lose. Maybe in this modern day, people like to think that way, and everyone's a prisoner of right now and likes to think that. I mean, there is one thing at play here, though, for all of the blue blood teams, because you don't see these teams dominating. You don't see Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Indiana, UCLA, and Kentucky. You don't see these teams dominating the ways that they used to, back in the old days, because more people want to do this now. Like Scott Drew at Baylor. And the other thing is, you can do it more places. There are more schools that have good facilities than there were way back when. Way back when, the money was tighter. Now, all of college sports are big money everywhere. Everyone wants to have the coach, and it's just a more competitive thing. And that's great for basketball. But here's the bottom line. All of basketball and you heard that quote. I mean, James Naismith always said basketball was born in Massachusetts, but basketball really flourished big time in Indiana. Indiana University being the flagship school of Indiana, a lot of people put it as just Indiana University. I don't. I really look at the fabric of the high school gyms in Indiana and everything involved. Indiana just being that flagship school means a lot because it's in the epicenter of what you would consider the Midwest basketball scene. Bloomington is like right in the center of that because people love basketball, but people love basketball in Indiana. Nice. Like 8 of the largest high school gymnasiums in the world are in Indiana. That's pretty amazing. And it really shows the level of like how rabid our fan base is for Indiana. Think if Purdue wasn't in the state. Think of how rabid our fan base would be if Purdue University wasn't such a big-time basketball school. But we got that rivalry. I always thought, back in the 90s, the rivalry between Bob Knight, Gene Cady, and Purdue, that was a big-time rivalry. Then between, Pitino and Bob Knight, I hope this sparks up the rivalry between Indiana and Kentucky, and it makes it that much better because it's just good. It's good to hate other schools. I hate to say that, but it makes the rivalries better. It makes it better. Like Matt Painter, he's too likable. It's hard to hate him just because he's got a soft chin. He's too likable. He's not like a angry, mean guy that you can just rip on because he's too nice. It's hard to rip on nice people. So rip on me, Kentucky fans. I find what this guy was saying on there very, very annoying. And Indiana is a blue blood, and I guess they'll always be a blue blood. Just like Alabama football, even though they sucked for a good 20-some years, they were always like football. They were always like the premier school for football, and it's because of their state and their makeup and their love for the game of football, and it was just a matter of time before Alabama football was going to be back. And I hope these Kentucky fans, Darren DeVries and the guys coming in, they're all crying because they didn't get Lamar Wilkerson. But Kentucky fans, I would love for this to be a real bitter, angry rivalry. It's coming around. It's a four-year tour, and Calipari is out of there. So tell me what you think. Do you think Indiana's a blue blood? Maybe you're a Hoosier fan and you think not. Maybe you think Kentucky sucks. Tell me what you think down below. Tell me what you think of this show. Tell me, what do you think of what this dude had to say on here?
Carved from the sands of the Wabash River and formed into a monkey land that's sold at Home Goods. It's the Hillbilly Monkey Perspective on Indiana Sports Connection.
Well, these guys that are born in 1990 that just want to act like maybe that is a person that thinks that they're grown up now and they got the right to talk and all these things. I got news for you, people. People are living to be like 100 years old these days. So there's so many people out there, they all remember the Hoosiers and everything like that and all the ways that they won. And many people remember that. And, the people that were born after the years that Indiana has not, won all these championships here lately, but they got to understand that history is in books for reasons and things existed, and to just act like things don't matter. You just got to get a book and realize that these things do matter, and then you'll understand more of the fabric of college basketball and why it's so damn popular in the state of Indiana. That's right. It is popular in the state of Indiana, and it always will be popular in the state of Indiana. From the time I was born till now, for the rest of my life, Indiana is always going to be considered blue blood in college basketball. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.